Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast here on our lovely wintry sort of morning as we're getting a blast of cold air from the south. But anyway, that's what we're dealing with here. But I'd like to take a moment as we open the show to sort of hold everybody in our prayers and our thoughts for the two major tragedies that happened over the weekend in the US, in Hawaii, in Ohio and in Texas. I can't begin to imagine what those families and friends are going through and the community as they try and come to terms with the terrible tragedies that have happened and the loss of, you know, loved ones and friends and colleagues. It astounds me as a human being at why these tragedies keep happening. It's just, I don't understand it. I can't comprehend it. Yes, I can appreciate people might have mental health issues, but isn't there enough help in the world that we can get these people some help, that we don't need to keep constantly talking about these tragedies and families losing people that are so close to them that were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. So please, you know, this week in your prayers and your thoughts, and send some positive, loving energy to those families and friends and colleagues in those two disaster zones in the US. Look, I know there's lots of other tragedies that happen around the world on a weekly basis, and, you know, we could fill a whole show up with that, but we're not going to. So we're going to sort of try and move the energy along and try and bring some sort of sunshine and some light into the show if we possibly can. And I think we might sort of, you know, try and do that in a more positive way as we work through the show. But it's interesting this week that the Simply Tarot card of the week is the Five of Wands. Now, the Five of Wands is a card that looks like we're having a battle, and it is the card of arguments, battles arguments or battles that are around you. And you can see that the five men there are, you know, battling with their wands or their sticks, and they're sort of heavily into a battle or sort of an argument around them while they're trying to sort of sort things out. And I think this is very fair to be said for a lot of people at the moment. Everybody's sort of battling, and it may not be arguments with family members or colleagues. It could be just the battle that's going on in life, as you battle your way through life, as you battle your way through your finances, as you start to try and come to terms with the changes and the things that are going on in your personal world at the moment and the world around us. And I think it's very important that we sometimes honour the fact that not everything in our day-to-day world is always necessarily bright and positive. It's sort of like we need to take our time. We need to sort of look at what is happening in our world, in our personal world as the world at large. Now, it takes me this week straight into our glimpse around the universe. And, you know, in the last 24, 48 hours, we've heard some terrible stories coming out about, you know, the stock market and finances, and global markets are crashing, and this is happening and that's happening. And I'm going to say to you, it's no surprise. If you're a regular viewer of the show, you'll know that I've quite often talked about in the last 2.5 years about the Saturn and Pluto conjunction sitting in Capricorn. Now, Saturn's the planet of discipline. It's like the father figure. It's the one that dishes out the lessons. Pluto's the planet of transformation. It's slow, deliberate and definite. And when they're both sitting in the sign of Capricorn, which Pluto has been there for a very long time now and will be there till about 2022, Pluto was responsible single-handedly last time for the global financial crisis that we all experienced around the world. And that was as Pluto was going retrograde or backwards, and it dipped back into another sign at that time, and everybody sort of got a bit gung-ho and a bit excited. And then all of a sudden we had that major crash, and we had the major financial crisis that sent many nations into recession. Now, we're not exactly facing the same thing again, but what we are facing now with Pluto holding hands or conjunct Saturn, it means that we all have to tighten our belts financially. And I have been saying this for a couple of years now. Pay down any debt that you possibly can. Learn to live within your means. Start to look at or err on the side of caution when it comes to financial transactions. Don't purchase something that you can't afford to pay for. It's a little bit different when you purchase a home. Yes, we all have to get finance for that unless you've got some rich relatives or you won the lottery. But for most of us mere mortals, we have to go to work and work hard to pay our mortgage or our rent. But anything above that, and I even include the family motor car, try and pay cash for it. Or have a backup plan that you can pay it off quickly if your personal finances change. It's not the time to be incurring debt that we can't pay off with our savings. It's like if you spend $5,000 on credit, make sure you've got $5,000 in savings that you could quickly pay out that debt if your circumstances changed. And it's not saying the world's heading into doom and gloom. It's just showing us that around the world that many, many nations are in crisis in many different ways. We've got political arenas that aren't exactly stable or aren't what the public say they voted for, even though they voted them in. And we've got a world of chaos and turmoil and change at the moment. So it's a time when the world is transforming, and I don't know that it's a time when we can necessarily look to history for answers. Yes, we can maybe glean some useful information, but it's not necessarily going to unfold and manifest in the way that it did before. And then when you've got the planet Uranus also sitting in an earth sign of Taurus, which has been going backwards or retrograde recently too, but is now in a stationary position. Uranus is a little bit like the bolt of lightning. Uranus can sort of strike and sort of ignite things or activate things. And this is what I believe has been the trigger for this crash in the stock market, that things were getting a little bit too buoyant. Things were getting a little bit too out of hand. We were becoming too cocky as a nation of people around the world, that we thought that there was a never-ending spiral to getting on the gravy train and having unlimited amounts of money, that the universe itself has to correct things and make people sort of start to realise that, you know, money is only an energy and we don't always have a good run with it. Sometimes we come down the roller coaster instead of going up it. So we all need to take care with that sort of thing. So on a much brighter note, I'm pleased to say that, you know, there is some positive things happening astrologically at the moment. We've got Venus conjunct or holding hands the Sun in Leo at the moment, and a very wide or very loose holding hands or conjunction to Mars. So what that means for most of us is it's the time to shine. It's the time when we really want to strut our stuff. We want to get out and show the world what we're made of. For many of us, there'll be some inspirational and exciting new ideas on the horizon, things that we're sort of trying to kick off or get off the ground, or maybe that time we go and ask for that pay rise, maybe not today with the way the stock market is. But it's a time when we can start to be sort of fairly optimistic in our own personal world, because we've been working hard on making changes with ourselves and sort of really trying to bring our lives into balance. It's a perfect time to sit down and have that conversation with a loved one. If you've got something that's been niggling away at you, or you want to make some changes in the family, now's the perfect time to bring up those conversations. And that leads me on to our actor of the week. This week we're dealing with a male Virgo, and we're dealing with somebody that I think there wouldn't be a woman on the planet that wouldn't agree with me when I say this. He's been voted many, many times one of the most handsome men on the planet, probably one of the most handsome men of the decade, and I'm talking about the one and only Sean Connery. And Sean Connery, interestingly enough, started his career out in the Navy, and he was in there when he was from a very young boy. He went on to many other things, but he went into a modelling career just purely to raise some extra money, and this led him into stage work and then eventually onto the big screen. And it's interesting because Sean has played many, many roles over the years, and, you know, he can be a very dramatic actor, he can be an action person, and I mean, I suppose most of us remember him in the many, many James Bond films, and I suppose the jury's out there at who is your favourite James Bond. There's three that spring to mind to me, but I think somehow or another Sean Connery for me wins it hands down, because there's just that suaveness, that sophistication, those beautiful deep eyes that you sort of almost feel that he's talking to you when he's on the screen shooting, you know, when he was shooting that film. It's just, he brings a story to life, and I think he's one of the greatest storytellers. And it's interesting to see that he's a man of very high principles, and he hasn't let his guard down over the years. With all his fame and all his glory, he's remained very grounded, very earthy, and you would expect nothing else from someone that's a male Virgo. You would expect them not to lose that earthiness, but it's very true what they say about Virgos. Virgos never look their age, and Mr. Connery isn't exactly 21 anymore, but he's certainly holding up very well, that's for sure, and he has my vote as being the best James Bond ever. So as I promised you, I'd try and lighten the show up a little bit as we went on. And this week I decided that we'd work with a candle that's one that we don't feature very often on the show, but I thought it was very appropriate this week, and it's the sun candle. And the reasons why I chose the sun candle, I think in the midst of all these tragedies and all this loss and all this negative energy that's going on with the stock market, I feel it's time that we bring some sun, some light into our lives. And the sun candle certainly does that. It's got coconut and vanilla fragrance, and they're the energies of sun and summer and positivity to me. And it's one of my favourite candles, and it's something that I think we can all do with sort of bringing some illuminated, bright, positive light into our lives, bringing the sunshine. And as you can see, the sunshine is just coming up over the water. It's the sunrise shot here from the Gold Coast, was where that photograph was taken for the candle, and it was to bring about, you know, what I think is new hope and positivity into our lives. And I think that's something that we could all do with at the moment. With everything that's been going on, it seems to have been a very long, dark winter around the world, even if you are in summertime. With some of the events and world events that have gone on, it's time to bring in some sunshine. So it'd certainly be sort of looking at maybe writing 3 or 4 things on your list this week, some new things that you'd like to bring in. These candles that have the dual wicks, I like to light one side one day and one side the next day, gives you a longer sort of burn time. As you can see, the candle's just starting to shrink a little bit from the round to the outside of the glass jar. With the cold, that's what happens to the candles. They sort of shrink and contract a little bit, but doesn't change the desire or the effect of the candle, and it smells absolutely beautiful. Let me assure you, it does smell like summer. And it makes me feel sort of quite excited and enlightened to sort of feel that we've got positive things coming our way with the sun shining on us in our lives at the moment, that we can bring some positive energy into our lives and illuminate that beautiful warmth of the sun and the promise of a bright tomorrow. So I feel this week, if we were working with a sun candle or something equivalent, we'd be wanting to put 3 things that we'd be wanting to bring some light into our lives for, and they could be new projects. They could just be, let's light the shine the light on you as a person and your life and your family, and bring happiness and joy into your lives. If you don't have an area that you can burn a really large candle, these gift box sets are perfect for that. These are small, they're travel size, you can take them into the office, you can use them in small areas. They still will burn for around about 15 hours each, where the larger ones you can get somewhere between 60 to 100 hours. So it's always nice. And I think this week, let's not put anything that we're releasing on our list. Let's just make it something that we want to fill our lives in a beautiful, light-filled way. Let the sun shine in on your life. So let's put 3 or 4 or half a dozen things on there that we want to attract to us. So for those of you that don't want to work with a candle, you can always pick up a melt warmer at your local department store or supermarket, fairly inexpensive. Take a couple of teaspoons of the soy wax out of your candle, put it in the melt warmer, write your little list, pop it underneath the melt warmer. Always using your candle or your melt warmer on a coaster, never directly on the furniture, because your candles, particularly the glass container, does get hot. And with the changes in atmospheric pressure, you wouldn't want sort of the candle to sort of get hot and then have a cool air blow through and the candle crack. Not that I've had that happen. I've only ever had it happen twice in my life, but I'm still very cautious of that. And of course, safety first, always. Never leave a candle unattended. Always sit with your candle and utilise the burning of a candle between 15 minutes to 2 hours daily. And I like to work on a 7-day cycle. So let's sort of take our first caller, I think. Maria in Vancouver in British Columbia in Canada. Are you there, Maria?
Great.
How are you, sweetie?
I'm pretty good.
That's good. Do you have a question I can work with?
Yes. What can you tell me about the status of the home that I own with my husband?
What do you mean by that? Are you looking to sell it? Are you looking to make improvements?
Husband really wants to sell it.
Right.
I just don't know where we would go.
Okay.
Because financially, my mother is supporting us with the mortgage, and we're wondering, you know, when do we finally go, okay, this is not working for us, we're going to go somewhere else.
Okay. Look, I do believe that you will sell the house, Maria. I don't think it's going to be this year. I think there needs to be some more discussion here before we actually sort of make a final decision on where you go, what you're doing. Is it the time to sell the house? Is it the time to stay put? I don't know that even when the decision is finally made to put the house on the market that you're going to feel super comfortable with it. You're still questioning right till the very end whether or not this is the right decision. So is your husband looking to sort of downsize your financial commitment by selling the house and maybe going into something smaller that he sees puts the family into a better financial position? Is that the motivation behind selling?
Yes. However, the housing market here in British Columbia is insane. In respect to like the pricing of everything, even to rent is expensive. So.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, if you're going to sell in that market and stay in that market, what's the point? Because you're only trading one set of figures for another, aren't you? And a lot of expense in between.
Exactly. However, the strain, as you could, he wanted to sell it in 2016, and energetically, it didn't happen. So I just, you know, I'm just kind of wondering, like, is there an ideal time? Like, is there? Because I believe in timing is everything, right? You can try all you want, but if the timing isn't there.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You know, divine timing is it. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, you can wish for something and you can write all the vision boards under the sun and do everything right. And if it's not the right divine time for something to happen, it just won't happen. Look, I sort of feel probably towards this time next year in 2020 is when I think a final decision will be made. But I feel by then it's like you've been shown what the next step is. You know, at the moment, all as you're being shown is that it's not the right time. And you sort of feel that, okay, you know, your husband's talking about maybe this is the time to sell, but you don't feel that. And I'm going to say to you that you've got to honour that. You've got to honour the feeling of what's happening. Sorry that I keep looking down, but my earrings were falling down around me, little balls coming off my earrings and distracting me. But look, I think that there's going to be, what I'm being shown is two prolific dreams, Maria. And in both of those dreams, it's like it's not necessarily the definite actual answers of this is where you've got to go and this is the street address, but it's saying to you, okay, this is the guidance or the pieces that we've got to put together in the jigsaw puzzle. I don't know that you're necessarily going to leave Vancouver, but I do feel you're going to go a little bit further out, you know, like about 20 minutes away from where you are now is where I feel you'll be going to. And I feel that it will be a smaller property than what you've got. And I feel you're going to be guided to it because it's like whatever you sell the one that you're in now for, the next one you're going to buy, you're not necessarily downsizing as such, but you'll be downsizing the amount that's paid for and what will be owing on the place. But it's not necessarily a downsize in the space. So I sort of feel quite excited about that, because it's sort of like it's giving you guys a better opportunity to get in control of your finances and sort of somewhere that you can sort of bed down and say, right, this is where we're going to be for a very, very long time. I think your husband sort of thinks that he doesn't want to get caught with this place, that maybe one day it'll be at a point where nobody will be able to afford to buy it or something like that. He's concerned he's going to get left with it.
Well, the thing is that the only thing that's keeping us together as a couple, other than the children, is the house. So if the house gets sold, we're probably going to split ways.
But if the house gets sold, you'll go your separate ways.
Yeah, that the only thing that's keeping us together is this house.
Right. Well, that's sad. If that's the only thing that's keeping you together is the house, well, that's not necessarily.
I'm raising the children, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So
I didn't feel, though, that the two of you were going to separate. I know that's the way you're looking at it at the moment, but I don't feel that. I feel in this next 12 months, I think there's going to be some really serious conversations about what we're expecting out of life, what we both want out of life, and it's sort of like you almost find your way back to each other and the marriage takes on a new energy.
Okay.
And I think it's a good energy. It's not just out of fear or anything like that. It's something that I think that it's almost you sort of rediscover each other again as human beings, and that's a good thing.
But do you this other place? Is it possible that my mother might allow us to live in the other property that she has?
Well, she could, but I just don't see that as being where you're going. I can see you as purchasing something else.
Okay.
Okay, that's where we're going to have to leave it, Maria. I'm moving on now to Sweetheart in Rotorua in New Zealand. Are you there, Sweetheart?
Hi.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm good. Ooh, sorry, I just had my radio right by my feet.
Do you have a question for me, Sweetheart, that I can answer?
Hello?
Hello, do you have a question for me I can answer for you, Sweetheart?
I was wondering if you are a medium reader?
I am, sweetie, but in the very short time that we've got here, there's no guarantees I can get through to who you want to speak to. Do you have a question I can work with?
Oh, no, it was just, how is my love life going to be?
Your what, sweetie?
No, actually, my financial status.
Your financial status, okay. All right, the first thing that they're showing me there is we've got to take a deep breath. So I think that in the short term, I don't think things are going to get what I call easier. It's sort of like we're going to take a deep breath and brace ourselves and let's sort of try and plough forward through, what's coming up in the next few months. And I'm not saying that the world's going to, come to an end or anything like that. I just think you've got a tricky couple of months ahead of you financially where you really do have to look at, putting everything in a series of order of what needs to be paid first and what's the most important. By the time we get to October, I think you're starting to be able to exhale a little bit and sort of breathe a little bit easier. I still want to suggest to you, though, as we head towards the end of the year, let's try and keep the budget pretty tight and not overspend over the festive season and look towards sort of maybe trying to pay down some debt. Sort of, try and sort of get back to living within your means again. I do have an older woman in spirit here and she's waving her finger at me, sort of saying, I've told you before about money, my girl. Is that your grandmother?
Possibly.
Yeah, but she's really quite firm about it. Like, I've told you before about this, like she's got a stern face on with me. But she's saying to me that you know what you've got to do and it is manageable. And I think by about next March next year, I think we can have everything, I don't say completely paid off, but I think well and truly within the realms of you feel like you're back in the driver's seat and things are going forward again and you're very happy with the way changes are sort of happening in your life, and that's good. I feel very comfortable with 2020. 2019 has been a year where you really haven't got going this year, sweetheart. It's like one step forward, three steps back, and it's like, is this year ever going to sort of really start to get some traction? Well, probably the answer is no to that. If it's your grandmother that's waving her finger at me, she's been telling me that you haven't been listening. You
No,
need to
I
get your
haven't.
listening ears off. No, she's told me you haven't been listening. She's been trying to get through to you and you haven't had your listening ears on. So I think you better start doing that before she gets very upset and she has her own way of dealing with things. Look, by that, obviously open your heart and your soul up to her being able to sort of come through with some messages. But I know she's got some very definite messages she wants to share with you, and no, she's not going to share them with me. She said they're for your ears only. So can I suggest you go somewhere that she may be particularly liked? Was there a favourite spot or a favourite picnic spot, and just sort of sit there and, take a few minutes and try and connect with her, because she's got something really important to share with you. But even though she was quite firm with me and pointing a finger at everything, there was a smile on her face behind all that. So I don't think you've done too badly. I think it's just her way of saying, well, I may not be the one you wanted to hear from, but it was my turn and I'm still the boss.
Oh.
And everybody will do as I say, not what they want. Mm-hmm.
Yes, because next September coming, I've got my partner's unveiling in the Cook Islands.
Right, okay. Well, I'm sure she's with you all the time. She doesn't seem to feel like she ever leaves your side. She's always there sort of helping you, guiding you. But she keeps telling me that you're a bit too strong-willed for your own good. You should listen a bit more.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think I can share with you this. I think you're very much like she was, so she really shouldn't throw stones in a glass house, should she? I don't know that she did a lot of listening either. So,
wow.
you know, like, yeah, but that's okay. I mean, you know, obviously she thinks the world of you, and she just wants you to know that she is with you all the time, and there is some really, really good things coming. But is there another celebration to come up in the family in the early part of 2020 as well? Is there something else? She's got this really big surprise.
Unveiling.
Right, okay, because she's very excited about all these big celebrations that are coming up, and she's telling me she's going to be at all of them.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, it's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but she's also showing me a baby to be born. I don't know that it's yours, but there's certainly news of a baby in the next 6 months or so, and it's a baby girl. She says, "Watch out, world. Here comes Mini Her."
Oh, well, no, it's definitely not me. Oh, but
No, I know. But there's one to be born in the family, and she's saying it's going to be a Mini Her, so she's very excited about it. So when you hear of the next pregnancy in the family, you'll know it's a girl, and it's your grandmother coming through reincarnated in full throttle.
Oh, oh, that's massive. Oh,
That's lovely. I have to leave it there, unfortunately, sweetheart. We've run out of time. The show's just about to end. It's been lovely to talk to you, sweetie, across the pond.
That's awesome. Thank you very, very much.
You're very, very welcome. So the show's come to an end again. How half an hour does wrap up very quickly, but please remember, please keep our friends from Ohio and Texas in your thoughts and your prayers this week. They really do need all of our strength, all of our loving energy, you know, as we cradle them in our arms and help them through this terrible tragedy. And don't forget, try and pay down as much debt or work out some plans that you can to make your life financially and emotionally easier as we head towards the end of 2019 and head towards 2020. Until next week, bye for now.